Let's talk more then about the 2023 budget tabled by the Minister Enoch Godongwana today. We're joined by Tertia Jacobs, a Treasury economist with Investec. A very good evening to you, Tertia. Grateful for your time. Any surprises for you today?
Tembi, no. There were really no major standout features except for the Eskom announcement.
And on Eskom, 254 billion rand more to deal with government basically taking on the utilities debt, but 56 million rand is the level of municipal debt owed to Eskom, and the minister is warning that that is rising. When you look at those two factors, how much of a risk are they to the utility and the country, especially now with government taking on that debt?
Yes. So, Tempe, I think the key issue here is that 254 of debt relief, will service Eskom's capital and interest payments over the next 3 years, right? So there will be strict conditions attached to it. But what it will do on the other side of the coin is freeing some of Eskom's cash flows that would otherwise have been directed towards servicing debt or repaying debt, or interest. So now some of those finances can actually go towards an increase in maintenance capital, and as well as paying for more diesel that's needed to keep the lights on.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at Eskom, the minister did say that it remains the greatest constraint to the country's economic prosperity, right? Now there's going to be incentives made available to both businesses and households who are going to be installing solar from the 1st of March, up to 25% of the cost of panels, for instance, for households who go that route. That is capped at 15,000 rand. Will that be enough?
I guess every drop helps. We see that batteries and inverters are not going to receive any tax rebates. So I think what's perhaps important to see what the takeoff is, and whether people will actually be incentivized.
And when we encourage people to get more solar, install solar, we would rely on that, would we not, or would hope, at least as a country, that it's something that has such great uptake that it helps to also, at an Eskom level, to put the utility in a position where load shedding is not as big a crisis as it is.
Absolutely. I think there are two issues. So we expect that there's roughly nearly 100,000 megawatts of rooftop solar that can come online. And then over time, individuals will be allowed to sell their surplus energy to Eskom, and that will make even more, capacity available. So I think there can be quite a few positive benefits that can flow from this.
I want to ask you about another issue, the basic income grant. There have been social justice organizations calling for a permanent implementation. That's what happened in this budget. There's only been an extension of the temporary relief at 350 rand. How far will that go as far as helping the poorest South Africans who rely on that money, because these are people with no other income, and even those of us who earn salaries are struggling at this point. So what about them?
So I think some of the tax announcements that the Minister of Finance made today, is sort of geared to try and provide some support to households. So the first one, there has been the tax thresholds have been lifted. So, for example, if you get an inflation-adjusted salary increase, normally you could pay more taxes. So those brackets have been adjusted to release some of the cash for you. There's been no major other tax increases. It's only like the sin taxes that have gone up. So I think, and then also you may have seen that manufacturing companies or food manufacturing companies are also qualifying now for the diesel rebate, the fuel levy that can be subtracted in order to remove some of the pressure on food. So the government has tried to address, at the margin, some of the challenges that households face. And then also, the extension of the 350 rand grant, per person, it's not that significant. Hopefully it can go some way. But, when you look at the total of nearly 4 billion rand, right, it needs to be financed. So I think the government is trying to find a balance here. But ultimately, Tembi, what we need is growth and we need jobs.
Will this budget get us there?
I think in as much as the debt relief was provided to Eskom because, that is the biggest constraint. The emphasis or the focus is now very much on Eskom to fix the coal power stations, to start addressing the corruption and work on competence. So the ball is now in Eskom's court.
Tertia, good to speak to you. That was Tertia Jacobs, Treasury economist at Investec. Good to have your time tonight.